Hi everyone! So it's time for another My 5 video and let's just jump right into it. So my green product for this month are reusable straws. Now these are exactly like you think, I guess. You just use them like you would a normal straw and then you can wash them and clean them. You do need to get a little brush so you can clean them out properly, especially if you're using them with things like smoothies. I've also seen reusable straws made out of glass. Now, I don't use these a ton. I was never really big on using straws. I will sometimes put them in a smoothie, or if I'm having, I don't know, some drinks, I'll put them in, but I don't use them that often. I also find it a little bit weird, the feeling of them, because they're hard, unlike a plastic straw, which is softer. But if you are someone who uses a lot of straws, then getting something reusable like this is so much better than using all those plastic straws. The brand I want to share with you this month is Zero Waste Daniel, and all of their clothes are made from cutting room scraps. And he does an amazing job at piecing fabric together to create really interesting new textiles and patterns. I love the sweatshirts he makes with faces, and he just has such a good eye for piecing together fabric in a way that's really modern and not like traditional patchwork. And on top of this being extremely environmentally friendly, everything is made locally in New York. The documentary I want to share with you this month is Chasing Ice, which is an older documentary. I think it's maybe from 2013. It's available on Netflix and it follows photographer James Balog as he sets up cameras and takes photographs of ice and glaciers in the Arctic. He basically wanted to show how the ice was melting. Because these are super remote locations, we don't really see what's going on in the Arctic. You hear things about how much ice is melting, but he wanted to capture that in photos. And it's pretty shocking when you see just the progression. There's some photos that are over a span of just 3 months, and you see how much ice is breaking off and going into the ocean and how far it's retreating. He has time lapses and photographs that span a few years showing the ice and glaciers retreating. And this is the effects of climate change, and it's really, I guess, important to see that and have a visual of what's actually going on when people talk about, you know, the ice melting and the Arctic shrinking, because it's happening so quickly. When I was in Iceland a couple years ago, we walked out to a glacier and they have little markers on the way that show, you know, in 2000 the glacier was here, and in 2005 the glacier was here, and you just like keep walking and walking and walking, and then you finally get to the glacier. And these glaciers are shrinking so quickly. What should happen is in the summer they shrink and in the winter they grow, but they're just continuously shrinking. This is a great way to visualize climate change. And also, they talk a bit in the documentary about climate change skeptics and how there's still this debate around whether climate change is actually happening. The documentary actually started out pretty slow, but I found it extremely engaging and interesting. There's some beautiful shots in there, and also some moments where I was very scared for the people in the documentary as they're climbing in these crazy ice canyons and stuff like that. But it's a really interesting documentary. It's a great look at what climate change is doing to the planet, and I really recommend watching it. Next, the new thing I learned this month was about sweatshops, and there is an article called Everything We Knew About Sweatshops Was Wrong, which I will link below, talking about an experiment that was done in Ethiopia, which has a growing industrial economy, and they wanted to see if factory jobs really help lift people out of poverty. And especially when it comes to fast fashion, one of the most common arguments, or I guess questions that people have, is that if we stop supporting fast fashion, then we're gonna hurt all those people that have these jobs, and basically coming at it with the attitude that fast fashion is helping people because it's providing all of these jobs. The study followed about 950 people who were and were not offered jobs in new factories. And what they found was within the first 5 months of the people who were offered jobs, the majority of them had already quit because the hours and conditions were so bad. By the end of the year, only a third of the people who got jobs actually kept them, and amongst the people who were working in the factories, injuries significantly increased. There was a quote in the article which I wanted to read, which is, "In the short run, workers seem to share few of the benefits but a heavy burden of the risks, a burden borne by the desperate and the uninformed." The conclusion was basically that while industrialization does help people in the long run, the process to get there really takes advantage of and harms people. And a way to avoid this is by having better management and worker protection. And so when it comes to this issue of fast fashion and jobs, there are companies that are providing well-paying, safe jobs for garment workers. And by supporting those companies, you can help create more jobs like that. So if you care about garment workers' jobs, then support companies that are creating good jobs and not ones that are just taking advantage of people. And finally, the blog I want to share with you is Moral Fibers, which is a great sustainable living blog. The author Wendy talks about food, home, family, travel, all kinds of green living topics. It's a beautiful blog and I really recommend checking it out. So I hope you enjoyed this month's favorites video. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these topics in the comments. Thank you for watching, and thank you so much to those of you supporting me on Patreon, and I will see you in the next one.